Welcome back to Star Atlas Dowcast, the number one podcast for news, updates, education, and all things Star Atlas. I'm Dowcaster, your host, and today's topic in Star Atlas 101 is asset destruction and deflationary mechanics. It sounds complicated, but stay with me. It's really important. If you're new to Star Atlas, I highly recommend you start at the beginning of the Star Atlas 101 series on this podcast to get the full picture, but let's dive in. Today's topic, once again, asset destruction and deflationary mechanics. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 5 all about combat in Star Atlas, I recommend you do that first as it gives a solid background to today's episode. Now, in the combat episode, we touched on what happens when you die in battle or lose to another player. Your assets, or your NFTs, are destroyed and random salvageable parts in the form of other, less valuable NFTs are left to the victor. So to recap, there are 3 tiers or zones that you can traverse. The first is where you start the game in the faction safe zone where you cannot be touched. The second is full of NPC mercenary groups or bots that if you lose in battle, some form of your NFT is returned to your inventory. Then in the third tier, your ships or assets are destroyed and taken from you. An additional way assets are destroyed is through the use of certain farmed materials like those used in construction, fuel, temporary boosts, and things like that. You use up fuel, you don't get that NFT anymore. But there's more to it than just boom, you lose your ship. And it's called deflationary mechanics, and it's absolutely vital for a successful cryptocurrency. Now, deflation isn't necessarily great in the traditional sense of finance today, but it's huge for crypto. Consider this. Hypothetically, if Star Atlas only makes 1 million Atlas tokens, but to play the game, you need those tokens. So you buy them for a specific price that matches the need. Then you learn that every time you lose in battle or use fuel, it burns or destroys these tokens, making them unavailable for future use. This lowers the supply of available tokens from that original million and therefore raises the demand and raises the price. So basically, the more you play, the more tokens you burn, and the more tokens you burn, the more valuable your tokens are. Now, this episode was more of a brief lesson on what deflationary mechanics are, how they help Star Atlas, how they help you, and how they are at work in the game itself. It's also just scratching the surface of a really big pillar in cryptocurrency, which is deflationary mechanics, and it's kind of counterintuitive from today's finances in the real world. So if you're looking for other games and you're wondering if certain coins or NFTs or metaverse projects are going to be valuable for the long haul, this is an area that you should be looking at. So this episode is the 10th episode. We've done 10 of these. And I have a favor to ask you. We really want to reach as many people as we possibly can. I won't ask for your money, don't worry. But if you can leave a review on the podcasting app that you're listening to this on, that would be huge for us because we want everyone to learn how to play Star Atlas. And the more reviews we get, the more that these podcasting apps promote our podcast. So even if it's 1 star, even if you hate this podcast, please review it. I'll take the positive feedback. I'll take the negative feedback, but it's genuinely appreciated. And with that being said, thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so at anchor.fm/StarAtlasDowcast/support, or you can find the link in the description. Now, eventually, it'd be cool if you could support in Atlas tokens or Polis tokens. But eventually, I think it'd be really cool if we did an NFT drop where all the listeners of this podcast could be the first to get in. I'm not going to sell it for like an insane amount of money, but if I sell them cheap, then you guys can resell them and it'd be really, really cool. So maybe that'll come in the future. That being said, if you'd like to sponsor or be featured on the show, email me at sponsor@staratlasdowcast.com. Thank you for listening, everyone, and never stop exploring.